Okay. Yeah, so let's pick up from Mitzvah Zion again. I outlined it last week, and Mitzvah Shem, we'll see what we can do. HaMitzvah Shvius, he shetzivonu lishova b'shmo yis'al k'shenitztarech, when it's necessary. L'kayim dova me'advom ul'achishoy, either to say something is true or to deny its truth. Using God's name as an expression of truth is a covered v'ilui lishmo yis'al gedula. And that's the pasuk b'shmo tishaveya. And we'll see about this. The pasuk b'shmo tishaveya occurs twice in Chumash, in Veschanon and in Ekev. Dvorim Vov Yud Gimel and Dvorim Yud pasuk Chof. And we'll see about this in Mitzvah Hashem. B'shmo tishaveya. Now, what happens is, just to give you the backdrop, and we'll go pick this up again and go over it, just get the backdrop over here. The Gemara in Tmu and Av Gimel, it's pretty clear that Ushmo Tishaveh is a heter. The Rambam is not Misyachis to the Gemara in Tmura, except at the end in a side issue about Reb Meishin Ishboim L'Kayis HaMitzvah. And the Ram quotes a Teres Kohanim, and the Gemara, which also is the Gemara in Shavuos, Alamanei with Beis, which doesn't necessarily say anything about mitzvahs, and the Ram interprets it as saying he's a mitzvahs, and he quotes this as a source, and it doesn't refer to the Gemara Tmur at all. Or Bei Omu, Omra Teira, Hishava, Bishmo, V'Omra Teira Al Tishava. So if it's Hishava, it's to do something, a command to do something, and there's a command not to do something. What's a loy mikimo shashvua she'eno tzricha muslim imenu vihi mitzvah loisaseh, which is shvua shov loisaseh samach beis kein ashvua leis atzarach mitzvah ba vihi mitzvah. So that is what he's doing, okay? And from this, and the truth is, the Gemara is talking about something else. The Gemara is talking about Ashvur B'Shem. Strange, okay? Because the Gemara, we don't know what this is talking about, and the upshot of the Gemara is that you should be Nishba B'Shem or something like that, and it's not clear that was the call of the Gemara, but the Rambam is the Gemara that this is no call for the mitzvah, and it's not Mesiachas in Gemara Tmur. So let's now take it from the beginning. This is going to be the first discussion. I hope to get to the second discussion. The second discussion is a question about an Aseh. To make a shvur in a nivra. כמו מלוכים והכפובים. Okay, we'll come back to that in Hashem. We know that. This B'shmo Tishaveya is part of a general string of mitzvahs in the pasuk Es Hashem Elokecha Tira, which is mitzvah Yerushalayim, mitzvah Daled, Oisei Tavod, which according to the Rambam is the mitzvah of Tefillah, Uboy Sidbok, Lidober Tamech Chomim, B'shmo Tishaveya. It's one mitzvah after the next. 4, 5, 6, and 7. And the common denominator in all of these mitzvahs is that it's the avodas Hashem Yis'aleh, and the avodah is here in this case b'zeh gedula l'Hashem Yis'aleh v'kov v'ilui. And the Ram also says very clearly in the Shavuos that this mitzvah is midake avodah. Perek Yud Aleph Halacha Aleph. שהשבוע בשמו הגודל והקודש מדרכי עבודה היא, מדרכי עבודה היא, והידו וקידוש גודל הוא להישבר בשמו. And the Ilui and the Kovod is that God is the source of truth. And therefore, when you want to vouch for the veracity of something, you use God as the expression of the ultimate truth. Now, here, I just want to say something, okay? Here, in Minyan HaMitzvos, there is no, let's say, there's no clarity in terms of which name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is necessary for the mitzvah. He just says, Sheva Lishova B'shmo Yis'aleh, whatever that is. וכשנצטרך לקיים דובו מהדבום או לאחישו, כי בזה הגדולה, לשם יסעלה וכל ואילו, ואומר יסעלה, we know nothing. Now, let's just start, and before we discuss what it might be, there are many shemus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's something called the Shem HaMiyuchad, which we normally call Yud Kei Vav Kei, Shem Mufurish, then the Zayin Shemesh and the Chokim, and there's Kinuim with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like Mishu Rachum, or Chanun. So, for certain things, there's certain halachas. For example, for the Chiyuv Magadev, you require Shem Miyuchad. The Ram Hilchos Avodah Zorah, Perek Beis Halacha Zayin. You require the Zayin Shemois for Malchus al Mechikas Hashem. Hilchos Yisrael Torah, Perek Vov Halacha Beis. Shvur Bekinui happens to be a Shvur. As the Ram says in Perek Beis Halacha Beis, Hilchos Shvuos, Echa Nishba או שהשביע אחר בשם המיוחד, או ביחד מן הכנועים, כגון שנשבע מישהו, מי ששמו רחנון, ומי ששמו רחום, ומי ששמו ערך אפיים, וכייץ בהן, בכל לושן, הרי זה שבוע גמורה. So it's a bona fide shvua, even with a kinui. And the Ram over here, as we mentioned before, just says Shmo Yisrael Stam and V'Kiyu Mitzvah say. So one would assume that you don't need Shema Meyuchot, and maybe you don't even need Zayin Shemesh and Mechakim, and might be enough with a Kinui. Now, however, the Ram Mishneh Torah in Perek Yud Aleph Halacha Aleph says, Kach mitzvah say, Sheyishova, Mishnis Chayiv Shvuah Bebezdin, B'Shem Shenema V'Shmo Tishaveya, Zo mitzvah say. And then he says, Shashvuah B'Shmo Hagodol V'Kodesh, Midake Avodah, he, V'Hido, V'Kiddush Godol Hu, L'Shova B'Shmo. So if he says that the Shvuah B'Shmo Hagodol V'Kodesh, in Shvuas Dayonim, he's Mekayim the mitzvah B'Shmo Tishaveya only if the Shmuah is the Shmo Hagodol V'Kodesh. So you might say maybe the Shemesh and Mechakim, which I doubt a bit, but a Kinui is certainly not good enough for the mitzvah. Now, comes the Rambam and says, Kishiyitztarech, Lishov B'Shmo, Yis'ala Kishiyitztarech, when it's necessary. Okay. Now, the Rambam has a very nebulous statement about where there's a mitzvah. What does it mean? When is it necessary? The Ram Mishneh Torah, as I read before, didn't say it explicitly, but the Ram seems to limit the mitzvah. Let's see it again. Kach mitzvah say shishova mishis chayv shvuah bebezdin. So he's talking about shvuas dayonim. Here, he doesn't say that shvuas dayonim. He just says shnitztarech, and we have no idea when there's a tzorach, when there's no tzorach. So we still have to understand, if you don't limit it to Shvuas Dayanim, we have to understand when is it tzorach, what the tzorach is, and what's going on. But the pashtus over here doesn't seem to be limiting to Shvuas Dayanim in Sefer HaMitzvos. Interesting is, we have mitzvahs, or Shvuas Dayanim. You can look at it as a different way, in a different manner, b'chlal, because the pasha of Shoy Mechinom, and in the pasha of Shoy Mechinom it says Shvuah, and in the other pashas of Shmiur it says Shmuah. So you could have said the Shvuas Dayanim and Kiyuzeh Shvus Hashem tiyeh beinei. So you have all the cases of Shvus Dayanim, as you could have said, they're part of the mitzvahs of Toim v'Nitan, part of the mitzvah of Shoimim. Mitzvah say Reish Mem Beis, Reish Mem Gimel, Reish Mem Dalet, and Reish Mem Vav, Toim v'Nitan. Sheshvua. Okay, so maybe. So the Shluch over here is that had Shvua been limited and only part of the mitzvah of Shemachinum, Shemesacha, Shoel, one would have said, or Toyim V'Nitan, that it's only a shrana, it's only a din, because the whole mitzvah of Shoimrim or Toyim V'Nitan is only a din. And if you recall, we said that dinim, there's no kiyum. That's the Midrash Chinuch. So it could be is this Chadish and Amar of Shavuos Dayanim over here, B'shmo Tishaveya. And there are two parts to the Shavuot. The Shavuot is part of the Shrana of Dalet Shemim, of Gimel Mitzvahs, Shem Shemachinum, Shem Esacha, and Shoel. And it's a kiyum as a separate mitzvah of Shavuos Dayanim in general, B'shmo Tishaveya. And it could be that Shavuos Dayanim in the Shrana, it's enough for Shemesh and Mechakim, or maybe even Kinui. But for the Kiyum of Mitzvah, B'shmo Tishaveya, you need the Shmo HaGodol, or the Chol HaPocha, Shemesh and Mechakim. And the mitzvah is the Ilui, Lishmo Yisale. In the mitzvah of Shavuos of Dayanim, Shavuos Hashoimim, is just to make the Shavuot. And it's a din, no kiyum. And a kinu yilchor is enough to pat tashlumin. So you can imagine that someone who takes a shvuah with the kinu might be part of a tashlumin, but it's not mekayim the mitzvah b'shmo tishaveya. The problem over here in general that the word which is used in this mitzvah is a chiyuv. Is there an obligation, or is it only the kiyum for shvuah? Because it's tarech. Because to say that he's obligated to take the shvuah, he can take the financial loss. But on the other hand, Gerushin and Shchita, according to the Rambam, and the thing is, if he wants to eat basar, he's chayv lishchot. If he wants to divorce his wife, he should do it through a get, the Sefer krisis. So maybe the same thing over here. That if he wants to ma'amis his divorce, the mitzvah is to do with Shem, but he doesn't have to want to ma'amis dvov. He could take the loss. He can do whatever he likes. Maybe that's what's going on. Now, the Ram says where we have it, Sheish b'zegul du l'shem yisala v'kovet v'ilui. In Kappa is the Sheish b'kach roimus lo yisala v'hidu v'gidu. So there are two inyonim in this shvur. Loimois lo yisale is darkei avoda. Shashvur b'shmo yisale v'kodesh midarkei avodahu. And this hida v'gidol, hida v'kiddush godol, hu lishov b'shmo, is the kiddush Hashem. And that's very similar to what the Ram says in the Shvuos in Perek Yud Aleph Halacha Aleph, Shashvu b'shmo hagodol v'hakodesh midake avodehi. One, v'hidu v'kiddush godol hu lishav b'shmo. There are two things going on. There's a dake avodah, and there's a kiddush Hashem kovet shmo yisala. Now, let's just go on to set down some of the principles over here. The Ramban, in the Asogas to this mitzvah, disagrees with the Rambam, and is of the opinion there's no mitzvah lishova. The Ramban, as he says, is based on the Gemara T'mur, and I've given him a base. Because the Gemara has a possibility that you get Malchus, that the Nishba gets Malchus, and the Pasuk bought or Bishmo Tishaveya says, no, the person who's Nishba doesn't get Malchus. So L'chol Bishmo Tishaveya is not a mitzvah, but just a heter. Rashi is like this in Chumash, in Perek Vav, Pasuk Yud Gimel Dvorim, on the Pasuk B'Shmo Tishaveya, La'achar Shiur b'cho kol hamidas halolu oz B'Shmo Tishaveya. If you're Shemaim, this and that, that's the heter. The heter is for the special person who has the midas hakosu b'pasuk Yiras Hashem holich b'drachav oz huto lo lishova. And the be'emes is, you would have assumed in the Rambam also that Shvu is only a heter. Because the Rambam Shvu is per Yud Beis, Halacha Yud Beis, Teva Gedolah hi, Tov Gdol Hili Odom Shal Yishova Klau. It's much better. V'im ovar v'nishba sheyitztaye v'yama b'shvuas u'shnema nishba lohora v'lo yomir because of achov oiseile lo yimud lo'olam. So it's poshut, you shouldn't be taking shvuas. So maybe there's no steal. The Ram himself is mashma that shvu is only a heter. So the answer is that a shvu l'haba, and that's the Ram's told me she's stayev v'yam b'shvu asay. That l'chayr is only a heter, because the only time you can talk about lamud b'shvu asay is only a shvu l'haba. And the side of the Itza of taking shvuas is maybe he won't be able to develop. And that the Isa Shvuah and the Isa Nedarim are pretty much the same. As the Rambam Hinuchos Nedarim Perek Yud Gimel Halacha Chaf Hey the more Yevomis Kuf Tesam Beis, because there's a chashash that the person won't mekayim his neder. Who adin there's a chashash maybe the person won't be mekayim his shvuah. However, when he wants to mekayim or lahashish dover ayidei shvuah, this is a shvuah l'shavar li'ovar. Shava b'shem Hashem la'ameis dover or lachishoy. In a shvuah li'ovar to say whether this is true or not true, there's no possibility to violate it. Either it is true or not true, as he said, and that's it. There's an option of chilul and not makayin shvuah. And the shvuah li'ovar is either shekel or emes. And maybe the Ram's opinion that the Isa shvuah that he's told me to Perek Yud Beis, Alochin Beis, is only in a shvuah abba, with the possibility of bittul and not to mekayim the shvuah. But shvuah abba, there's no problem. And here, there's a mitzvah. Maybe the Rambam in Mishnah Torah has a different approach, that in general, the Ram would agree with the Ramban that basically all shvuas are a problem, except when the Torah is machayv shvuah, like in shvuas Hashem, shvuas Dayanim, there's a mitzvah. And according to the Ram Mishnah Torah, the mitzvah is limited to shvuas Dayanim. Now, here, let's continue. There are basically two psukim in the Torah, B'shmo Tishaveh. There's in Veschanon, in Perek Vav Halacha Yud Gimel, Es Hashem Elokecha Tiro, V'yoyse Tavo L'shmo Tishaveh. And then there's an Eki, excuse me. And then there's an Ekev, in Es Hashem Elokecha Tiro, Ois Tavoid, Uvois Sidbok, Ubishmo Tishaveya. They're in two separate psukim, and what the psukim coming for, what's going to happen, we'll see, are very important according to both the Ram and the Ramban. The Rambam, working with the Teres Kohanim, assumes that Kilo is a Kabbalah. He learns Omra Torah. It's not it's not, it's a deraisa, and it's good according to Shirishid Beis. It's a Kabbalah. And it's not Yigimum either. It's Omrit Hishava Bishmo, and this is the mitzvah. So when the Ram learns the Teres Kohanim, Omatera Hishava Bishmo, Omatera Lois Altishava. So Altishava means is a lav. And that's what he says, Sheret Tzricha Ato Shikamo Shashvu She'eno Tzricha Ato Muzim Imenu Bivihi Mitzvos Loisaseh. The opposite case is Li'es HaTzorach is a Mitzvos Aseh. And that's how the Ram learns the Gemara and the Teres Kohanim, that even though the Gemara Tmua seems to say the opposite, that it's only a heter, the Gemara is saying there's a mitzvah. And the Teres Kohanim will be. Now, let's not go over the Lashon. The Ram says, Ol Matera Hishava Bishmo, V'Ol Matera Al Tishava. What's a loima? Ki kamo shashvua she'eno tzricha atam muzim imenu v'hi mitzvos loisaseh shvua she'eno tzricha. That's what he's talking about. The lav is a shvua she'eno tzricha, and the mitzvah is the opposite of that. What the Ram is doing is saying that the lav and the mitzvah say are parallel. The lav is a shvur she'eno tzricha, and the aseh is l'chabed. Is mechabed shmo yisal in a shvua tzricha, which is sorch la'amis devarim. The isa of shvua shav is lezalzel in the Shem Hashem when there's no necessity for shvua. And the mitzvah okay. it's the Zalzel, the Shvur Shav is a Zalzel in taking a Shvur for things which are no Shein B'hem Inyan V'Toelis. The Rambam doesn't quote here Shvur Sheker. Where the Averi is L'Shake B'Shvuasai or Lavo Ashvuasai, but it's nothing to do with the Zilzal in the Shem of taking a Shvur Shein B'Tzarech. Interesting is the Rambam has a different interpretation b'chlal in Mishnah Torah, because the Rambam Mishnah Torah quotes both Lavim. The Rambam in Hilchos Shavuos, Perek Yud Aleph, Halacha Aleph, the Rambam quotes Kishem sheshvuos shov v'sheker, again, Kishem sheshvuos shov v'sheker b'lois aseh kach mitzvos aseh sheishov mi sheischayiv shvur bebezdin b'shem. As we says, Afal Pi in Perek Yud Beis Halacha Aleph, Afal Pi sheloike hanishba l'shovo l'sheker, v'chein hanishba shvuos ha'edus or shvuos b'kodon may be korban ein miskaper lohen avoin ha'shvuo kuloi shneimar lo yinak Hashem ein lezen nikoyon midin shamayim ad שיספור ממנו על השם הגודל שחילל. שנאמר, וחיללתו השם השם אלוקיך. So it's interesting, the Rambam over here seems to say that she's because since the mitzvah is l'shit starich, the way it has in Sefer HaMitzvos, so the lav, the opposite, is she'enot starich. Whereas the mitzvah and in Mishnah Torah, it's a question about Chilul Hashem Avapisha, because the Avera is the Chilul Hashem, and that's in Shvur Shav and Shvur Sheker. And I assume that the mitzvah is the Kiddush Shem HaGodol. Now, let's go on. Let's continue. Now, the Rambam starts a whole new thought. The Rambam now is introducing an Aseh, and he wants to explain what is the Aseh. He says, "L'chein eno mutar lishava b'dover mikol nivroim, k'ma malochim v'kechovim, ki im atzat chson and nismach," which is elliptical construction. That's what they say in English. Not sure how to say it in Hebrew. I guess chson and nismach. Kagoin chioim be'emunas hashemesh, and he doesn't finish the sentence, but he really means Vuhu yirtze be'emunas adon hashemesh. You want a Kodesh Baruch Hu. V'aldech is hazeh, in the same way, Tishava umosenu, our people, the Jewish people, b'shem Moshe Rabbeinu, kidei liskabed b'shmo, to mechabed shmo Moshe, v'zeh yodua shanish b'yirtzalom, and everyone knows that the person wants be'elokei Moshe over Misha Shalach Moshe. Now, this is amazing. And there's a problem, the Ram says, and Isa say, of Nishba in Nivroim. Kamo amalochi b'kechovim. In some mitzvahs, there is only a bittul aseh, like somebody who doesn't eat matzah. There's no isa say they didn't eat matzah. And sometimes we have a lava babachal say there's an isa. And where the pula is the opposite of the mitzvah. The mitzvah say for kohen to marry a psula. If a kohen marries a bu'ula, there's an isa say. And that's the Rambam in Aseh Lamed Ches. He's the born a kohen agodo sheyisa psula. Vu b'sel yufki. He b'sel yukachisha. Ubebei amu oisa b'kiva. Mamzer afil mechavi aseh. Ubeiru zeh. Kshiyi kohen gadol bo al bilti b'sula. Shehi asur loy b'aseh. Shows lenu lava bo machal aseh. So doing the opposite. Instead of marrying a psula, marrying a bu'ula, that's an isa say. Instead of making a shvur in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, making a shvur in Nivroim is an isa say. Now, because now things become interesting. That's just the beginning here. Let's read this. I'm skipping a little bit. We'll see Moshe Rabbeinu. Let's not negate now. Now, I'm skipping, שלא יכוון הנשבע הזה, ונשבע ביחד נברואים. If he actually has in kavona, כי לדובה הוא אמיתוס בעצמוסוי, has some actual inherent truth, עד שישוב בוי, הנה עובר ושיטב שם שמיים, עם דובה אחים שם שמיים, שבו הקבולה, כל משתתף שם שמיים ודובה אחים נקם מן העולם. So there's an inherent internal problem in the Rambam. What is going on here? Is this Aseh a svara, or it's a Kabbalah? Because he starts out and he clearly says it's a svara. Because he says, and he starts out l'chein. Logical, it's a logical inference. And he says, but he ends up and he says that it's a Kabbalah, which is not a logical conclusion, but it's a Kabbalah from Moshe. Because he says, Hine over v'shitim shem tova achim shem shamayim shebo a-Kabbalah. Kom shem shamayim nekem min olam. So we're very confused. Now, let's go slowly. So this is still the Chon Rambam. So my impression is, the way you should interpret this, you see, and at the end, this Nekem and Olam is the Rambam only mentions at the end when he talks about the Kabbalah. At the beginning, he doesn't say Nekem and Olam. And then he says at the end, afterwards, I didn't read that after the Kabbalah, he says, this is the Pshat, בשמו תשבע. הנה עובר ושיתף דובר אחר עם שם שמיים שבו הקבלה, כל מסד שם שמיים ודובר אחר נקם מן העולם, ואל זה הוא עניין כיוון הכוסוף באומרוי בשמו תשבע. רצה לומר כי לא לבד Tamin o emes shroi shishova boy. Okay, next. So what I suggest is that there are two isurim over here. There's an isa which we'll see of a shvu and a nivra without kavona that the nivra has amitus biatzmusa, and then that's an isakal. Then there's an isachomo of nishba benivra bekavona. The yesh the niva mitas batzmusay. And this is the Isa Chomo, and this is Nekem and Oilam. And the Rambam is like that, because the Rambam starts off at the beginning, and it says, Elochein Eino Mutali Shava. So it's a slaw. So you could have, the logical inference for the mitzvah say is there's an Isa to do the opposite, is to be Nishmer HaKodesh Baruch Hu and Nishmer Nivra, not to get necessarily that you believe the Nivra has Amitus Ba'atz Musa, but just the Etzem Shmu and the Nivra is also. And then there's a Kabbalah, which is a Pirish Makubal, Rubishmo Tishoveya, that there's an Isa Chomo of Nekem and Olam. And that is, if you have in Kavana that the Nivra has Amitus Be'atz Musa. And that is the Isa Chomo. And that's a Kabbalah. Now, just 2 points. There's no over here that there's something to do with Avodah Zarah. And just for edification, besides having nothing to do with Avodah Zarah, it's also nothing to do with Ikar Hadas, because the limud is from B'shmo Tishoveya. And Be'etzem, the Ram is very clear in order to say the Atera, there is an Isa of Anoich Hashem Elokecha. I think it's in Perek Aleph, we say the Torah, Loch Adalet, V'miyara Adas, Shein Kol Nimsodim, Nimsoim, Milvadoi, Mitsuyin, Hu Levado Yiyamotzoi, V'Olivatu Hu Levitulam, Shekol Nimsoim Tzichelo, V'Hu Baruch Hu Ein Tzorch Lohem V'Olechem Mehem, L'Fir Ein Amitosoi Kamitas Echod Mehem. The Amitas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is separate, has nothing to do with anything, because it's completely independent of reality. V'hu shenovi oimer b'Hashem Elokim emes. Hu levado emes. V'ein li'acher emes kamitoi. V'hu shatera oimeres ein oin milvadoi. Oimer she'ein shomotzui emes milvad kemoisai. And then the Ram continues, and this is the mitzvah of Anochi Hashem Elokecha. So I would suggest that there are two things going on here. Even the Isa Chomo, what are you doing? You're not saying that the Nivra is like God and has a it's emes kamo yisale, and that kilu that taking away the world, they would still exist in the way the whole discussion over here. You're just saying the Isa Chomo that the Nivra has emes. But not compared to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Isa of Anochi Hashem Elokecha, there you're saying you're comparing it to Yis'aleh, and that's a separate Isha. That's nothing to do with it. It's not an Isa Shvur. Now next. Now, I want to show you something interesting. if you read the Rambam over here, there's something very striking. There's a difference between Moshe Rabbeinu and the and Shah Nivroim, that in Moshe Rabbeinu, Kilu is an umdana, that it means God. So you don't need to say Emunas Moshe or Amitas Moshe. But in Shemesh, if you don't say Emunas Moshe, Amitas Moshe, there's nothing to talk about, and there's an Isa. And that's what he says, Yodua. V'zeh Yodua. Shanishba. There's an umdana. Now, what I want to do is read to Ibn Ayov. Oops. Whoa. Just had it here. Here it is. Yeah. Got to read it to you. Yeah. Yeah. He quotes Vihi mitzaseh. He does the same, okay? Ulezeh loy huta hashavua b'dovim and nivroim. This is the logical thing. Ulezeh loy huta b'dovim and nivroim. Just follow with your finger on whatever translation you have, and you see it's amazing, it's different. Hamalochim v'akechovim el atzat chisoron mitzuv, which is another way of saying elliptical construction. Kon shishova b'shemesh. He doesn't say amunis hashemesh. V'uyitz Eloima adoin hashemesh. You don't need. V'al zeh hatzad tishov musenu b'shem Moshe Rabbeinu manichvat shmo ki'ilu hanishba nishba b'adoin Moshe or b'misha sholach Moshe. It doesn't say hadova yodua. So I want to tell you something, because I heard this some Mark Herman, that if you look at the manuscripts, even Eov is an earlier Madura of the Rambam. And Ibn Tibin is later, and Kapach's Pavik Ksavyat is later. It isn't the Ksavyat Emunas Hashemesh. The Rambam originally held that if you have kavona fadoin, you leave it, you say shemesh, and you mean HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Adonai Shemesh, or you say Moshe, and you mean HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's not a problem. Okay? So that's the only way that it's Huta. But if you say Shemesh Tam without any kavona, that's Aseh. But if you say that Shemesh and you have in mind that it has Amitas Batzmoi, then there's an Isachoma. And this was the original. The Rambam held that everything is saying Moshe Rabbeinu. In the text of Ibn Eov, he doesn't say Dov Yadu and Moshe, because there's no difference. And the truth, when you read it, something's very odd over here, because the Ram, you get the impression in the text he's comparing Moshe Rabbeinu to Shemesh. V'aldei Hazeh, Hishavu Nuseinu. It's all the same. And the Rambam changed it, but left Kilu the equation that the Hete is only an Emunas Hashemesh, and Moshe Rabbeinu, it's your dua, so you don't need Emunas Hashemesh. Hashem will pick up more next week, B'li Neder.